No, it just kind of looks like I'm in that 70s show in the basement. Welcome to the Shutil Podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Martin Depict. I'm a photographer, videographer based in Los Angeles. And it took me 14 days, 2 weeks to download over 60 terabytes of memory or storage from the cloud. Now, if you guys didn't listen to the last podcast, I had this issue where I got home from a shoot and my RAID system had died. Luckily, it was still under warranty, so Western Digital sent me a new one. And then as soon as I got that new one, I started downloading everything off of Backblaze, which is what I use to upload everything to the cloud. Now, I do realize how much worse this situation could have been. I could have lost files. I could have not had anything backed up. I just could have been just like shit out of luck. I could have been working on a project when it crashed, and that would have been horrible. So the good thing is that I still had everything backed up. I had my laptop to work off of as sort of a backup, and I didn't lose any files. But the 2 weeks was hell. I didn't get a lot of sleep. Backblaze, the Restore app, is a brand new app that they just launched, and it's still buggy. It's not perfect. I was stress testing this thing. I had to find the optimal amounts of data that I can download at a time. So I was doing it in 2 terabyte batches. I tried doing it in higher amounts and then lower amounts, but 2 terabytes was the right amount where I was able to download 2 terabytes in 4.5 hours if I stayed on top of it. But if I didn't stay on top of it, it would crash. And then if I wasn't right here when it crashed and I couldn't restart it right away, then it would probably end up going a full day. So, that was a bad thing. And then the first time it crashed, I freaked out a little bit because I was like, shit, are these files being corrupted? Am I losing files? Is everything being downloaded correctly? And so what I did was I chose a video file, a very large video file. I think it was 400 gigabytes. And I downloaded it. It crashed during that download. And then when I restarted it and it picked up the download and it finished it, I watched it through, didn't see any issues, and everything was all good. But as far as I know, when I opened up my catalog in Lightroom and I relinked all the folders, everything showed up. Everything was good. Again, I didn't lose any files that I was currently working on. This is all archival stuff. So that's the good thing. And it was a learning experience. I went through it. I now know what I can do if I lose files. I now know how to restore files if I, need to download them off the cloud. So that's a positive. That's a plus. The bad thing was working off of my laptop. Now, I have a M1 Pro laptop, and then I have an M1 Ultra Mac Studio. So the difference there, I didn't think was going to be this huge, and I've never really tested them against each other. And it's also, they're both 4 years old at this point now. I got them both in 2022. So my Mac Studio has 128 gigs of RAM, and my laptop has 64 gigs of RAM. And then I don't know if it has to do with the RAM or the chip itself, but the processing speed is insane on my Mac Studio. A full hour-long video with effects and coloring and everything, I can maybe export it in 45 minutes. And on my laptop, a 30-minute video with effects and coloring took me 3 to 4 hours. So that was a huge sort of hit in the speed that I can go, so I was still working, but I had to color correct a bunch of files on the laptop, which took me time, which the exports then took time. And I found myself rushing on a lot of things, and which was not great. It honestly wasn't great. I think that DJI video that I uploaded on last Monday, that I edited maybe I shot it in 2 days and I edited in maybe 3 days. And the editing took me a lot longer than it usually does. And granted, I added more effects than I usually do. And because I was working with more cameras, there was more LUTs and color grading that I needed to do because each camera's Rec 709 LUT was different. So at first I was like, oh, I'll just add D-Log M to all of them. And then that was a huge mistake because once I finished it and I exported it, I noticed that the Nano's image was more flat. So that bugged the hell out of me. And then I went back and I added the correct LUTs. And the only reason I really noticed it is because when I got to the part of the video where I tested the ISO performance, when I got to that part of the video, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to use Dehancer in this part of the video. No like effects or noise or anything. Like I'm just going to do Rec 709, convert all the cameras to 709, and then just show the image as it's intended to be shown, how DJI wants it to be shown. And I think the test was, I think that, we got the results. I think that the Action 6 is obviously the cleanest one out of the three for low light performance. I would say the Nano is probably like a second, and then the 360 comes in last. But either way, I mean, like all of them did pretty well up until 1600 ISO. But having to do that video, rushing to edit it, and I mean, like, there was things that I did in that video that I feel like I wouldn't have done if I had more time. And I'll give you guys an example. I was working with different aspect ratios. So the Action 6 was exporting in a 1:1 4K aspect ratio. The Nano was doing in 4:3 aspect ratio. And the 360 was exporting, once I reframed it and everything, it was coming out in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So each one of them, thinking that, it's the same thing, or I guess, it was my mistake, or because I was rushing, I threw the same Dehancer LUT on all of them. And then watching it back after I uploaded it on Monday, I saw the grain structure be different sizes in each one of those clips. It bugged me. And honestly, like, those kind of mistakes happened because I felt like I was maybe doing too much. And when I've realized this in the past, my work has always gotten better. So typically as well, like, I'm working in teams, or I have other people sort of like seeing the work, and I'm able to sort of course correct a little bit before a client sees it or anything like that. But because this is YouTube, and also it's not like I'm not taking this very seriously, but I don't want to put so much pressure on it that I end up like being such a perfectionist about this that I don't end up uploading. So that video's up. I do believe that the message of the video was good and it got the point across. The stylistic choices that I made on it maybe weren't the best, and I think that's maybe me being a little bit harder on me when I say that, but that's just how I am. I am my own worst critic, as they say. I'll give you guys two examples. So obviously there's the one where, like, when you're color grading a photo or editing a photo, and then you're like, oh, you know what, let me take a break, and you stop for the night and go to bed or wake up the next morning, and then you come back to your screen and then you look at the photo or what you were doing and you're like, oh, what the fuck was I thinking? That's definitely when you're rushing, or when you're in this sort of like rhythm, or when you've been up for too long, that's how I sort of felt. But then another example, and especially when it comes to like the stylistic choices with like all the noise and the bloom effects that Dehancer does. And I'm saying this because I'm okay admitting it. And if you're going to tell me that you've never done this, I think you're full of shit. But like, if you're a photographer, the first time you threw in a photo into Adobe Raw or Lightroom, and then you get down to that clarity slider, and the first time that you mess with it and you push it all the way to the right, and you're like, wow, this looks fucking cool. In the moment, you're like, this is fucking sick. But 3 months after, you're like, that is like the worst fucking photo ever. And that's exactly what this is. It's just like your mind is sort of like, you have too many options, too much things going on. And I think those stylistic choices sometimes muddy things up a little bit too much. So I'm going to back off of the bloom effects and the grain. I just want to make sure that I can get my images clean. Maybe I'll get back to adding like grain and some like image effects down the line. But as of now, I want to just get a clean image, make sure that everything looks good. Like, for example, right now, me using the can of haze and I cooled down this light. So this used to be at 3200 Kelvin. So it was the warmest that it could go. And I just bumped it up to 4000 because I was like, you know what, let me switch it up a little bit. I think that this is a better, look. I like the 3200 Kelvin because I like the warm images, the warmer side of stuff. And I think like all my images sort of tend to lean on the warmer side. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just how my eye has sort of developed over the last couple of years. But that's how you develop preferences and things of that nature. But when it comes to this YouTube stuff, because I am intending this to be something that I continue to do and I'm able to get into a good rhythm in. And although that last video was rushed, this process still deserves to be perfected, because as I continue to post every Monday and I continue to, shoot and edit these videos for you guys and for myself is the bigger thing, is that I'm doing this for myself. Not that you guys don't matter, but there's so much more that I want to take away from this as a creative, to build my confidence in front of the camera, to prove to myself that I can stay consistent with these longer format videos. And then also I think a little bit is like to keep a little bit of like a video diary for myself as I get older and for my family in the future. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way is that me rushing and sort of like being in this fucking frantic headspace that I've been, not having my RAID system fully downloaded and, having to deal with having to download the files, making sure that Backblaze is up and not crashing all the time, and working off of my laptop, which is a much slower process. Less is more in some cases. And what I said a little bit earlier, whenever I've come to this realization and I've sort of like noticed this about my work, where like I'm doing too much, let me take a step back, my work has always gotten better. So this is 100% like the best thing that you can do as a creative, whether you're a photographer or a painter or whatever the fuck you do. When you're realizing that you're doing too much, and then you start to pull back a little bit and start to, I'm not going to call it self-editing, because it's not like self-editing. It's more of like being more deliberate with your choices. So once you're being a little bit more deliberate with your choices, with the shots that you take, with the way that you color your photos, with the way that you're editing your video, all that comes out in like a much better end product. And again, I'm not focusing on perfection just yet. This is definitely still me trying to get to a point to where I'm, comfortable, but this is all part of that process. It always leads me to, a much better place once I have these realizations. So I'm happy to have said that. And I think with this realization, I'm switching over to DaVinci Resolve. Now, look, I have a friend, my friend David, who he runs this company called Fanword. And like years ago, he's told me, I was like, dude, you have to switch over to DaVinci. You have to switch over to DaVinci. And I was like, no, I'm good on Premiere, like Premiere's just like, it's just something that I've known. Adobe is something that I've always known. I went to school for graphic design. I learned Photoshop. I learned Illustrator. I learned InDesign. I worked with Adobe Bridge, like the whole creative suite. I've used all the programs. And when it came for me to start shooting and editing video, Premiere was just like the easiest thing to get into. And, I just didn't question it that much. And I never thought that there would be something that would overtake it as much as DaVinci has. DaVinci has, man, I mean, like with the new release of DaVinci 21, which the full version has just released today as I'm recording this. I downloaded the beta right after I finished the DJI video because I was so unhappy with the creative decisions that I made in that video, obviously, that I just talked about, but also just like how Premiere just didn't help me with some of those like see these decisions a little bit earlier. Like, and I'll give you guys an example being you can make your own LUTs and stuff and you know, for each camera that you work with. But when it comes to Premiere, especially with like Rec 709 LUTs, like I'm always sort of like making sure that I have the right Rec 709 LUT with the correct camera. But because all those cameras were D-Log-M, the D-Log-M LUTs just got very confusing and I confused them for one another and it just got very like dicey in that way. In DaVinci, like the first day that I opened it, the first day that I started a project in it, it asked me, what program are you coming from? Do you want to use the same shortcuts, which is awesome because I did. I'm using the same shortcuts as I am in Premiere Pro, so that helped. But then two, the file manager and how you're just able to set up like your files, even in the color tab. Because like in the color tab, you can make a bin and just say like, hey, these are my LUTs for the R5 II. These are my LUTs for the Canon R1. These are my LUTs for the DJI Nano, for the Osmo 360, for the Action 6. You have different folders clearly labeled for all that stuff. Like the fact that like it's such a small thing, but such a big thing for me because it's less for me to get confused about. The process of color grading in DaVinci, yes, the tools that you get over there with like being able to adjust the offset and the gain and like clearly see the levels and being able to see the color curves clearly, everything, just the histogram, just is everything right there, right when you click the color tab. And I know they added that onto Premiere, but it was just a little too late. Like there was already so much things and plugins and everything already was, you know, a well-oiled machine here on DaVinci by the time that they did this. And it's not like I haven't used DaVinci before. I've used DaVinci before. I think it was like DaVinci 16 or 17. And back then when I tried it, I was like, this is a little bit too confusing. Like I'm just going to go back to Premiere. But this switch this time was so easy. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm more comfortable editing video now, which is a huge plus on this side because I'm editing so much on a weekly basis just with these videos that I'm getting this comfort level of just like being able to get into a rhythm of cut, edit, color, export, you know, all that stuff. But I digress. This time coming back to DaVinci, it was way different. The way that everything's sort of like in one app is very helpful. I'm excited to start to learn Fusion and I think the color grading aspect of it, like I said, it's not too much different than my workflow in Premiere. Like I basically do the same thing. So I add a node to each clip that converts it to a Rec 709. And that's really easy. I made a YouTube video on it. It's basically each one of these camera companies, they make a specific Rec 709 conversion LUT for their cameras. So you just go online, find the camera that you have, go into the download section and you download that Rec 709 conversion LUT. And that's what I would input in that first node. So there's that one node. Before that node is my adjustments. So these are just small contrast adjustments. Maybe I'm adjusting a little bit of the curves, but I'm getting the Rec 709 image to a good spot. You know, like, do I want the shadows to be a little bit higher? Do I want the highlights to come down a little bit? All those adjustments are all being adjusted in that node before the Rec 709. Then after that, then I do my dehancer plugin. So I'll just throw the dehancer plugin after that Rec 709 LUT, and then I'm choosing the film stock and the color emulator and all that stuff. That's just like basically my look tab, my look node. And then after that, there's another color adjustment layer if I want to adjust the temperature cooler or warmer, or if I want to bring out a color more. So if I want the sky to be a little bit darker blue, then I'll just sort of like adjust those colors in that last node. But that's it, 4 nodes. I have, and in the order, it's the adjustment layer first, then the Rec 709 color, then the look, which in my case is Dehancer, then it's a final color adjustment, which that's it. It's just 4 nodes. And it's not much different than what I would do in Premiere. It's just the tools in DaVinci are so much easier, like I said, to use. And just being able to have everything on one page, very easily labeled, if the blues are too high or the reds are too high, going into your curves and bringing down, adjusting the red curve or the blue curve or the green curve. It's just, man, I should have done it way sooner. In some ways, I'm happy that I'm doing it right at the beginning of 21, because I do believe it's so new, and a lot of the AI tools that they've implemented in this update, I'm hoping that I'm catching on at the right point, So yeah, I'm excited for that. And this will be the first video on my channel that gets edited with DaVinci. So I think it's a big deal. I think I think in the last 2 weeks, I feel like I've been so stressed out making sure that I got the files back. Now that I have the files back, being able to get back into the rhythm of editing. And not only that, but like I'm behind 2 weeks on editing. So like I need to jump on that right after this, or right after I'm done editing this podcast. And yeah, there's a sense of urgency now. And I still need to, I have 2 vlogs that I've shot but not edited. Well, one vlog that's done, another one that I've started shooting. So hopefully, working in DaVinci doesn't slow me down too much, but I honestly don't think it will. I think that from the little bit that I've been doing in it now, which I've been coloring like TikTok clips and exporting TikTok clips. I have all my presets done, like my timeline presets done. I have my export presets done. So that's all perfect. And I think that's honestly the biggest thing, making sure that all my LUTs are in there perfectly labeled, making sure that I have my timeline presets in there perfectly labeled, and then making sure that I have my export presets there perfectly labeled. So then I could just go in, edit, export it, be good. And honestly, just from the 1 week that I have under my belt with DaVinci right now, the workflow aspect of it, like I haven't even tried trying to move the tabs at the bottom, but if I can move the color tab in front of the cut tab, that's probably what I'll do. I'm not sure if you can do that, but I would probably just start with the color, move on to the cut, then to the editing, then maybe effects or fusion if I need to add any fusion effects, and then go into the export tab or the deliver tab, as they call it in DaVinci. And yeah, it's easier. Just like having it all in one tab. I don't have to open any other apps like Encoder or anything like that. It's just, I'm like kicking myself a little bit for not doing it sooner, but here we are. We're here. I'm doing it. Better late than never. And yeah. So yeah, that's it for this episode. That was me just checking in, giving you guys an update on everything that's been going on the last 2 weeks. I have to catch up on a lot, but I don't think I'm going to let it slow me down. I'm on a good rhythm. I still haven't missed a Monday since I started in January. I'm really happy about that, and I'm going to keep going. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I have a vlog coming next Monday, which hopefully by the time you're watching this, I've already started to edit and should be in a good rhythm and not be, pulling, I can't even say pulling my hair out anymore. It's kind of sad. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, keep shooting. Peace.